Hello guys, welcome to StudyIQ. I'm Safir. In this session, we are going to talk about the Indian Council Act 1909, and then we will discuss that is the Minto-Morley reforms, and then we will discuss 1919 Montagu-Chelmsford reform, the Government of India Act 1919, and then 1935 Government of India Act. Okay, so 1909 Minto-Morley reforms or the Council Act, and then the Government of India Act 1919 and then 1935. So this is Minto-Morley reforms, and then this is Montagu-Chelmsford reform, Montagu-Chelmsford committee, and the next is Government of India Act. So three important acts we will cover together today. So let's start with it. Let's start the first one, the 1909 Indian Council Act. The Council Act 1909 or Minto-Morley reforms. Right. So guys, if you see Minto 2 at this point of time as the Governor General, and if you see 100 years back also, during this time, when you study the Charter Act of 1813, at that time also Governor General was Minto. So it's like after 100 years, another Minto is coming, right? It's just like history is repeating. So it is very easy for you to remember in certain cases like that. So Minto-Morley reforms. Now I hope you know the context of this already. 1909 it is. So by 1905, like partition of Bengal and the associated development, Swadeshi movement is going on, and extremists is emerging very strongly, and they are saying that they need to extend it to the other parts of India also, not only confined to Calcutta or Bengal. They want to extend it to the other parts as well. But the Congress, under the influence of some promises which has been made by British, they don't want to do that. And in 1907, there was a Surat split, and that actually weakened the movement. In fact, that's exactly what Britishers also wanted, right? They just want to weaken the nationalist movement. They want to separate the moderates and extremists. Otherwise, the nationalist movement was getting stronger. So they want to do that, and that's in fact the reason for partition of Bengal also. It is not for administrative convenience or anything. It is to weaken the nationalist movement. And 1907, with the Surat split, they've actually met their objective. So you can see in 1911, Delhi Darbar, the partition of Bengal, that was called off. So why Bengal was partitioned? As per British version, it is for administrative convenience, right? Bengal was so huge and all those reasons they have told. But what was the real reason? It is to weaken the nationalist movement. And did they achieve in their objective? Yes, they achieved in their objective with the Surat split. After that, the extremist leaders were arrested and some went to other countries, right? And some, retired from politics. We discussed all these. But guys, before Surat split, Britishers have met the government actually met the Congress leaders, senior Congress leaders like the moderates, and they've made some promises that they will come up with some good measures. They will come up with devolution of power. So they have made the promise that they will give some good, kind of devolution of power. Till then, if you see 1906 and all, they're demanding, Swaraj on the lines of white colonies, like dominion status, white colonies like Australia, New Zealand, etc. So they are expecting that they will be getting the dominion status, or they will be getting Swaraj on the line similar to other British white colonies. And that is the context. So they want to do certain reforms. And this reform is intended to keep that promise. But they've never kept that promise. Whatever Congress was expecting, that never came in this. So Congress was actually not happy with this anyway. But by that time, nationalist movement already got weakened also, because extremists are gone. Bal Gangadhar Tilak, or all these leaders are either arrested or went to abroad. Okay, so let's look into this Minto-Morley reforms. I hope you understood the context, and it is mainly for devolution of power. Okay, devolution of power to Indians. So you can also see this comes up with separate electorate. I'll be talking about that. So separate electorate means they also want to appease the Muslims. Now, why they want to appease the Muslims is a big question here, because if you see partition of Bengal, which section have supported the British? In fact, the Muslim landed elites of Bengal supported the British during partition of Bengal. Why did they support it? Because if Bengal is partitioned, one area where their Muslims will be majority, and these landed elites will get advantage. They will become part of legislative council and they will get all these advantage. So they openly supported the partition of Bengal. So British have got this view, or British have got this as the advantage, because not everyone is against the partition of Bengal. There are sections who are in support of partition of Bengal also. So that give us say to the British. Okay, but what happened? And in fact, if you see Shimla deputation, this can be a prelims question also. Deputation. Okay, in Shimla deputation, it was like a open support which was actually offered by Muslim League to the open written support which was actually offered to the British by the Muslims. And guys, if you see, all these have done by, you got the support from Muslims and all, but when in 1911, when partition of Bengal was annulled, or when it is called off, it is like betraying the Muslims who supported partition of Bengal. Now the Muslims are very angry, right? If you remember, one more point that I'll tell you, 1857 onwards, after 1857, British have changed their strategy, because 1857, mostly who participated in revolts are Muslims, like a lot of Maulavis, Maulanas, Wahhabi leaders, right? Maulvi, Ahmadullah, Maulvi, Pir Ali, you can see the huge participation of Muslims. And they have taken Muslims as their number one enemy. And there are a lot of controversies and statements like these are Muslim conspiracy against British also. Okay, the 1857 revolt. So they've changed their strategy. They have started taking Muslims as their number one enemy. And then Sir Syed Ahmad Khan made a lot of effort that they tried to convince that Muslims are also equally loyal like Hindus to the British. And then Britishers are not giving any good things to the Muslims, neither in education nor in employment, nothing. And then post 1905, after this Swadeshi movement and all, when Hindus are started turning against English, now they want to appease Muslims. So in 1857 onwards, they started appeasing Hindus, taking Muslims as their enemy. Now 1905 onwards, they started appeasing Muslims, taking Hindus as enemy. And you can see during this time, Muslim League was formed, separate electorate is going to be given, and all those things you will be seeing. Okay, so let's start with, I hope you got some background information just for you to remember, so that you will, when you're writing the mains, you'll be able to write things properly. So guys, let's look into the actual Council Act of 1909. So as I've told you, it is partly to accommodate the demand of Congress and partly Muslim League. So here the objective is mainly you need to satisfy Muslims, because it's like Muslims are felt betrayed after the partition of Bengal called off. So you want to appease Muslims. So you have to give something to the Muslims. At the same time, you need to, accommodate the demand of Congress, because you have made a promise to the Congress that you will be coming up with devolution of powers. That is the reason for the Surat split and everything. Okay, that's the reason why moderates were against extending the Swadeshi movement outside Bengal. Hope it is clear. So now, if you see the objective itself, it is made very clear that not to establish self-rule in India. So I'll just write this objective, because this is what makes the 1919 Government of India Act and this one different. There, if you see, that is to establish self-ruling institutions in India. So here, not to establish self-governing institutions in India. So the objective itself is made very clear. That means they're not going to go for any dominion status, or you're demanding Swaraj on the line similar to white colonies. No, you're not going to get that. That means the domestic affairs, the local affairs will be taken care by the here itself, and the British will take care of foreign policy, like that, those important things. So that is not going to happen here. Okay, so the objective itself is very, very clear, that not to establish self-governing institutions in India. So what will be the change? Now itself, I'll tell you, when it comes to 1919 Government of India, the objective itself, it will be made clear that to establish self-governing institutions in India. So the objective between 1909 and 1990, now itself you have covered. Okay, so here it is very clear, not to establish self-governing institutions in India. There it is going to be, it is for establishment of self-governing institution in India. Okay, so guys, like if you look into the first one, let's talk about the separate electorate itself. We'll start with the separate electorate. So separate electorate for Muslims. That's the most important one when it comes to 1909 Government of India Act. So separate electorate for Muslims. So to meet the demand of Muslim League and the Muslims. Okay. So guys, if you see here, I hope you know the idea of separate electorate here. The Muslim candidate will contest, Muslim voters will vote. Okay, only Muslim candidate can. On the other hand, joint electorate, like if you see Panchayat Raj institutions, there are reservations for women. What is that? It's not separate electorate, it's a joint electorate. Everybody will vote, but reservation is given for women. Like that is what joint electorate with reservation. This is separate electorate, only Muslim candidate and Muslim voters. No Hindus are involved. That's what separate electorate. So what is the Congress position here? Congress position will be go for joint electorate, give reservation to Muslims. So that's the Congress position. And later you will see Muslim League is ready to accept the Congress position on separate electorate and all. And then Lucknow Pact, Congress is ready to accept the Muslim position on the separate electorate and all. You will see that, and you should be in a position to understand. Muslim League needs separate electorate. Congress is looking for joint electorate with reservation. So the difference is very clear. Joint electorate means everybody will vote, but reservation is given for the minority. Now, if it is Muslims, you will be given reservation. Panchayat Raj institution, women reservation is given. I hope you're clear. That is the joint electorate with reservation. Here, separate electorate. Only Muslim candidates will contest and will vote. It will be extended also later to the backward caste, to the Anglo-Indians, to the Sikhs and all that you will be seeing in the next 1919. Okay. So I hope this one is very clear. Second one, for the first time, Indians were to be in a majority in the Legislative Council at the provincial level. First time, Indians in majority with Legislative Council at the provincial level. Guys, any reform that they do, they will do it first at the provincial level, then they will extend to the center. Like later you will see diarchy, next one. And that will be at the provincial level, then it will be extended to the center in the next one. So that's how it is done, right? So majority, this is the demand of Congress, right? Indians need to be in majority with the Legislative Council. That means they can pass the laws and everything. So here at the provincial level, they're at the majority, but still Congress is not satisfied with this. Why? This is something which you need to understand very clearly, because the textbooks will tell you like this: Indians are in majority. And the next one, if you see, elected Indians are in majority, but you're still in confusion. Official majority, non-official majority, elected Indians, non-elected Indians, you're totally confused. What is this all about? You're in majority, then why Congress have still problem? If this was your demand, and if this is actually achieved, what is your problem then? Majority means what? More than 50% Indians. So is that good? Yes, obviously it is good. But the catch here is, let's say there are 100 members. Okay, 100 members are there, out of which, let's say, when I say more than 50%, let's say 60 Indians and 40 others. So now, is this what you're looking for? Yes. But again, the catch here is, this 60, out of this 60, 40 will be elected and the 20 will be nominated. Now, who is nominating them? It is the British who is nominating them. So to whom they will be loyal? They will be loyal to the British. So this 20 will be with them actually. This 20 will not be with the elected Indians. What is actually the demand of Congress? Now it has to be very clear to you. Now, at least now, if you're not clear about this, at least now it has to be very clear. The demand of Congress is not to make Indians in majority. Elected Indians need to be in majority. If Indians are in majority, this 20 is also Indians. They are nominated by the British, so they'll be loyal to the British, right? So that is exactly what is going to happen. And that's the reason why the Congress need elected Indians to be in majority. And that's what you will see in the next one. Elected Indians will become majority. So this is what most of the students used to ask me. Here also Indians in majority. Next is also, what is the change? Change is this. Okay, I hope now this is very clear. So the elected Indians are not in majority now, but Indians are in majority. Next one, the demand was elected Indians to be in, even now also demand is the same, but that never happened. Next one, it will be happening. Okay, so now the third one, no right to vote for women. So what will be the next one? If it is related to this, there will be right to vote for women, but not based on adult franchise, limited franchise. Okay, no right to vote for women. Okay, and then voting rights over budget were not granted. No voting rights over budget. Okay, guys, what I can do is I can also show you the Lakshmikant, the detailed, discussion on that. But whatever is important, I've discussed. The first two is what I consider as more important. So that is what we have discussed now. I'll just go through this also if you want. And this is something which you can read and understand, right? So Indian Council Act, it is also known as Minto. Lord Minto was the viceroy then. And then Lord Morley was the Secretary of State. Okay, Secretary of State. And then you can see here, 16 to 60. These numbers are not important. Just see that. Then official majority at the Central Legislative Council. Okay, but allowed the Provincial Legislative Council to have a non-official majority. It enlarged the deliberative functions. Like, for example, members were allowed to ask supplementary question, move resolution on budget, but not to vote on budget. Okay, and then it provided for the first time for the Association of Indians with the Executive Council of Viceroys and Governors. I've just missed out this point. Executive Council of Viceroy. Now, for the first time, Indians are getting into that. And Satyendra Prasad became the first Indian to join the Viceroy's Executive Council. He was appointed as the law member. Guys, if you remember when I talked about 1833 Charter Act, I've told that in Pitt's India Act, Governor General plus Executive Council was 4. Now, Governor General plus 3, so 4. And that will be increased to 4, means Governor General plus 4, total 5 in 1833 Charter Act. And the newly added member was the law member. Like that, here it is the Indian law member. And then communal representation, separate electorate to Muslims. And Lord Minto came to be known as the father of communal electorate. So guys, all these are very simple. It also provided separate representation of presidency, corporations, chambers of commerce, universities, and zemindars, etc. These are points which you can read, and there is nothing to explain in this. These are self-explanatory. That's the reason why I've explained what is the most important among that. So now let's look into 1919 Government of India. Okay, so now we have to look at Government of India Act 1919. So it is also known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. So Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. Okay, so it's like Montagu-Chelmsford Committee recommendation. Okay, so it is Montagu-Chelmsford Committee recommendation or Montagu-Chelmsford Reform 1919 or Government of India Act 1919. Guys, you clearly know the objective now because we already discussed about the objective just before when I talked about the objective in 1909 Indian Council Act. So what is the objective here? There it was not to establish self-governing institutions. Here it is to establish self-governing institution. So I'll just write objective. It has been made very clear in the objective itself to establish self-rule in India at early date. Guys, self-rule in India at early date. The date is not mentioned, the time is not mentioned, but the objective, they have made it very clear. Now they are going to give self-rule in India, but no specific timeline or anything is given. Okay, now let's look into the changes which has been proposed. There I've told you the communal electorate or the separate electorate to the Muslims was the most important point like that. When it comes to this one, the most important is related to diarchy. Now, what do you mean by diarchy? Diarchy, right? That is the rule of 2. So archy means rule. So when I talk about diarchy, rule of 2, monarchy, rule of 1. So at the provincial level, again, you remember any such things they are bringing in, it will be first time will be tried in the provinces. Okay. So at the provincial level, introduction of diarchy. Guys, so what will happen in 1935 Government of India Act? This will be taken away. So here, now there will be 2 lists and everything. So partly control is given to the Indians and partly will be with the governor. So what will happen in the next reform is in provincial level, they will give complete autonomy and diarchy will be introduced at the center. Half control will be, main control will be with the governor and then Governor General and then some with the Indian elected members. So diarchy means it is at the provincial level. That means you can form the provincial government. The provincial government will be formed by the elected Indians. So it will be composed of elected Indians, and they will form the ministries. They will own ministries also. There will be Indian ministers, and they make laws. On what list they make laws? Now there are two lists. That is what is all about this rule of two. One list is controlled by the elected Indians who are the ministers, and the other list is controlled by governor who is appointed by the governor general, right? Like president is appointing governors, and he don't have any control over the states, but like that only. So here, one list, that is the transferred list. I'm not able to write it completely here, guys. You know everything, so I'm just leaving it. I'm just telling, and you can take it down. Transferred list. And the other, as its name indicate, it is the reserve list. Who reserved to whom? Governor. So who's appointing the governor? Appointed by the viceroy. Governor is appointed by the viceroy. So I'm just writing like this. If you want, you can take it down. Okay, so if I keep on writing it, it will be so much bad. So I'm not writing, and it will be taking a lot of time also. So if you see, the ministers can make laws on transfer list. That's not that significant items. Like you will see education, health, local government, like this. These are the items which is coming in transfer list. On the other hand, in reserve list, like law and order, budget, taxation, all the important issues will come. Remember, police or the law and order is still with whom? It is still with reserve list or the governor who is appointed by viceroy. So I hope you are very clear now. When I talk about diarchy, it is a rule of two. Now guys, never be confused with federalism and diarchy. Federalism means like, it is at the state level there is rule, and at the central level. This is not the case. That is the rule of two at different levels. That is federalism. Here, rule of two at the same level. Provincial level itself, rule of two. That is what diarchy. Rule of two at the same level. That is diarchy. Rule of two at the different level. That is federalism. Okay, so this is diarchy, rule of two at the same level. At the provincial level, two list is there. So both will be controlled by two sections. So rule of two. Okay, half Indians like the transfer list, and half all the important by the governor who's appointed by viceroy, that is the reserve list. So this is actually the problem. This irrational system of distribution of power between reserve and transferred list became the problem with respect to this one for the Congress. So they are not happy with this reform also. But this is the main problem. Okay. Now, otherwise, if you see, it's like second one. I've talked about right to vote for women before. Then itself, I've told you here, right to vote will be there for women, but not based on adult franchise, but limited franchise. Okay, not universal. Some women have the right to vote based on education, based on land, based on tax they pay. All these conditions have been taken into consideration. Okay, so right to vote for women. And then what about separate electorate? Separate electorate continued. So there is no change. Separate electorate continued for Muslims. And then fourth one, if you remember before, I've told you, Indians were in majority at the Legislative Council. But now elected Indians will be in majority. Now you know the clear difference, right? So here, let me write elected Indians to be in majority for the first time. Because elected Indian, where? At the provincial level. That is also very important. Everything first will happen at the provincial level. Okay. So elected Indians are in majority. They can form the government. But there is a problem with the irrational distribution of that power. Transferred list and reserve list. They can make laws on the transferred list. That is actually the problem. But you are in majority now. Elected Indians are in majority, which was the demand. They can form the government also. And central level, there is not much changes, guys. There were like bicameral system was there. And then the number of Indians were increased in the Central Legislative Council. So that is there, that is common. Direct elections introduced. High Commissioner for India appointed with office in London, right? And the time period was around 6 years to look after Indian trade in Europe. So these are common points. And then Secretary of State will be paid from British Exchequer. That was one of the demand of Congress for a long period of time. Then communal representation was extended to Sikh Anglo-Indians. and then Christians as well, and separate central and provincial budgets. Like this, there are minor points which you can read and understand. Whatever require explanation is what I have given here, I have discussed here. These minor, okay, I'll just show the, from where I'm just looking at, I'll just show you so that it will be very clear. And it is anyway Lakshmikant only, so you all know that and you are following that. Just 1 minute, guys. I'll be showing you. Yeah, central control over it is the same thing, right? There is a transfer list and a reserve list. And then introduction of direct elections in the country. And then it extended the communal representation. High Commissioner was appointed. It provided the establishment of Public Service Commission. I just missed out that point. Hence, a Central Public Service Commission was set up in 1926 for recruiting civil servants. Provincial budget and central budget separated. Okay. And then appointment of a statutory commission to inquire into the report on working after 10 years of its coming into force. So after 10 years, we need some more. That is what Simon Commission. You have already studied, we have already discussed Simon Commission and associated developments and the protest, and then Nehru report and Delhi proposal, Hindu Mahasabha demands, Gandhi's 11 demands, and then civil disobedience movement, and then the roundtable conferences, and then connected to that 1935 Government of India Act. Okay, so that's how we are now going to discuss the Government of India Act. So there is a provision, right? After 10 years. So what is that? After 10 years, there will be a committee which will be appointed to inquire into the report on working of this. And then there will be further devolution of power. So that is why Simon Commission was appointed. But the problem with Simon Commission was there was no Indians. Simon Commission was actually for further devolution of power, but there was no Indians in Simon Commission. So what happened? The Congress rejected it. So when the Congress have rejected it, government actually challenged the Congress that you come up with a formula which is applicable, which is acceptable to Muslim League, Hindu Mahasabha, and princely states. So that's the context of Nehru report. And during that time, Muslim League of generally created some demands. They are ready to go with Congress position on separate electorate if their other demands are met, right? And we have seen the demands: Muslims should be given majority reservation in Muslim majority area, separation of new provinces like NWFP and Sindh. Residuary power should be with the provinces, right? All these demands we have seen, but none of them were actually accepted. And Hindu Mahasabha have exactly opposite demands. And British very clearly know that if Muslim League is okay, then Hindu Mahasabha will not be happy. On the other hand, if Hindu Mahasabha is happy and Muslim League will not accept it. And that's exactly what happened. Nehru report, Muslim League did not accept it. So British government have challenged already, and British government also did not accept it because it was not applicable to Muslim League. So, and then in the Lahore session, Purna Swaraj resolution was passed. Okay, when Nehru was the president of Congress. And then Gandhi's 11 demands, some general in nature, some specific in nature, taking into consideration of peasants and the capitalist. And we have seen that. And then Gandhi have taken salt as the issue to launch a movement, and he started civil disobedience movement. And then comes the roundtable conferences. The first roundtable conference, what is the main reason? It is for the devolution of power. First roundtable conference, but based on Simon Commission recommendation. And it is actually rejected by Congress, so Congress did not participate. So the question is then, who participated in that? It is the Hindu Mahasabha, Muslim League, princely states, Ambedkar. So you will be getting question, who participated? Yeah, who participated, who did not participate is also will be a question. So in the first roundtable conference, Congress did not participate. So the British claim was that they are trying to incorporate all Indians in the devolution of power. That was actually a dent because Congress, huge population is there and huge support is there, but you are not invited. You invited, they did not participate. It means your claim is over. So they desperately wanted Congress participation in roundtable conference too, and they have invited Congress and they have gone for their maximum to bring Mahatma Gandhi or Congress into the table. And Gandhi-Irwin Pact was signed and it was endorsed in Karachi session. And then that pact is very important for you. And in the conference, then there was a communal award. They want to extend it to backward caste, but Mahatma Gandhi is of the opinion they will give reservation. Congress is always for reservation, right? That means joint electorate with reservation for minority. And then it was granted, and then there was a Pune Pact and all those things which you know. And then comes 1935 Government of India Act. So guys, why I went all these quickly is because we have already done the discussion. So here, the objective is to, and you will get the connection. Okay, Government of India Act. 1935. It is based on the 3 roundtable conferences discussion. So if you see, the second roundtable conference is the only RTC where the Congress have participated. Not first, not third. So it is based on the 3 roundtable conferences and Simon Commission report, mainly Simon Commission only. Okay, so you have seen already at the provincial level, elected Indians are in majority. Diarchy was introduced. Now they will be given complete autonomy. So autonomy is now going to be given at the provincial level. So what will happen at the central level? Now they will introduce diarchy. So I'll just talk about this. 1935. Autonomy was granted. Okay. Autonomy was granted. You can just take it down, guys. I'm not writing it completely. Everything is given in Lakshmikant or Spectrum or any textbook that you're following at provincial level. So reserve list and transferred list is not more anymore. It is not there. It is completely with the Indians. Okay. So there will be, but there are some restrictions. The elected representative now can have 40% on the budget, law and order for the first time. 40%. Okay. So this is the biggest devolution of power so far. On the other hand, if you see 1919, what have happened at the provincial level? There was diarchy, right? So elected Indians are in majority, but there is a transferred list and reserve list. This actually hindered the Indian ministers and their law-making power. They can make laws and implement only with respect to transferred list. Policing is with them, law and order, budget, taxation, and everything. Now here, when it comes to this, law and order, budget, and all, 40% is with the elected representative. That's why I've told you this is the biggest devolution of power. Now, what will happen with this diarchy? This diarchy, now they will take it at the central level. So there it was elected Indians, transferred list, and then with the governor, reserve list. Here, Viceroy will have the reserve list, that is the Governor General, and then the elected Indians also. So now, diarchy at the central level. The same transferred list and reserve list is there. Reserve list, Viceroy, transferred list, elected representatives, similar to what we have discussed. So there is no need to discuss anything here. So anyway, at the provincial level, you can see the biggest devolution of power. Autonomy was granted at the provincial level. Now, guys, there are some provisions, like you will see federation, and then there will be 3 lists, and then there is a concept of joint sitting. You know what are the 3 lists, right? The central, okay, I'll just write it. So the act proposed a federal structure, right? So that means there will be 3 lists. On one hand, if you see central list, and then state list, like the provincial list, central or union list. Okay, like central government will make laws on foreign policy, army, etc. And then the state list, like agriculture, education, etc. And then there is concurrent list, where center and state can make laws. Later, it has been added to the 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution as well. And this federal structure was actually proposed in the Nehru report as well, to accommodate the demand of the princely states. You have to satisfy the princely states also. So federal structure will actually take care of that. Okay, so federal structure, and then bicameral legislature in 6 provinces, bicameral legislature and federal court, federal and provincial public service commission. All these are something which you can remember. And then this one, princely states would be allowed to preserve their autonomy, identity also. So this is again for princely states. Guys, this was a question which was asked in 2017, Butler Committee. Butler Committee was actually appointed in 1927 to look at viewpoint of princely states, what they demand, what is their demand, and all those things. And they have demanded that they need autonomy. That means they need to preserve their identity. They need to preserve their autonomy under British rule. So that provision is also there. Just remember this committee, Butler Committee, which was appointed in 1920. Anyway, 2017 it was asked. The chances that it will be asking now is slightly rare, but still you can remember. Okay, so the Indian Council of Secretary of State will be abolished. That is another point. So there are minor points also which I cannot remember. I can just read from here only. That's exactly what you need to read, but these are minor points. Those are not significant. Autonomy is the most important one. Diarchy is the next important one. Federal structure is the other points. Then there are minor points like 3 list, joint sitting, bicameral legislature, federal court, public service commission, separate electorate continued, and also given to the depressed class, the backward caste, the Dalits. Okay, I'll just write that also. Separate electorate for the depressed class. Guys, what is the significance of this? Almost 60% of our constitution directly traced its origin from Government of India Act 1935. That's the most important point that you need to remember. What is the significance of 1935 Government of India Act? Majority of our constitution is actually coming from there. And the elections held under 1935 Act gave the Congress and the nationalists who framed the elected provincial government at the local level. I've told you they can form the government. At the provincial level, they've got the autonomy. So they formed the government, and that gave a valuable experience to them about the working of democracy, how the system was working and all those things, right? And the working of parliamentary, setup and all those things, they have understood. They got the familiarity, how the system was working and everything, parliamentary style of functioning. And then later we also adopted the same. So that is the significance of this act. So I hope this is very clear to you now, whatever we have discussed. So all the three important points we have covered, or all the three important acts we have covered. I hope you enjoyed the session. If you enjoyed it, like the video or give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, you can comment below or also subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys. See you soon.